Okay, first thing I need to do is get my footage from my SD card over here. I actually have an XF card, but that's similar to the SD cards that we used in class. And if you are importing from your phone, you will want to do the same thing from your phone. You'll need to get those files from your phone into your computer. I'm going to create a new folder for them. Call it interview. So here we are in the media folder, a subfolder called interview, which I'm going to simply drag my clips folder over to copy. Do 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 do. Waiting for my computer. Waiting for my computer. Waiting for my computer. Do 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 do. All right, the files are copied over, and now I can go into my project, and I'm going to import them. Opening up my project. Notice this is my same project that I had my stop motion in. Video production Silverlink, that's my main project. I'm going to use this project for all of my assignments. I'm just going to make a different sequence for each of the assignments and perhaps a different bin. So to import, I can import in a couple of ways. I can either go up here to import, or you see the shortcut over here is Command I. The shortcut that I typically use is just to double click on my project panel down here. So I double click and I'm going to locate the media that I just copied over. Media interview. Here we are. Import. Now, there are some items that are just part of the directory and the file system for my camera that Adobe doesn't know what to do with, and that is A-OK. I'm just going to click OK. All right, and let's click on my new bin here, Clips 01, and see what's in there. Good. All right, I'll click on the first one. Okay, here it is in the source monitor. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Just test it out.
A E D. No.
Okay, now their heads are cut off. I'm going to go here and select zoom level. I want my whole image to fit. There we go. All right, so that's my whole image. I can just check it again.
ADE RU.
All right, so now I have my new clips in my bin. Let's start editing. Now that I have my new footage in my new bin here, Clips 001, I'm going to rename this bin first off. Call it interview footage. Okay, and I have my interview footage. Guess what? I want to move that bin into my footage bin. So there we are. Now, in my footage bin, I have interview footage. There we are. Okay, next thing I need to do, well, I need to make a new sequence. So I'm in my sequence bin. Now I can either go up to my file drop-down menu, new sequence, or you'll see Command N is the shortcut for new sequence. All right, when I click on new sequence, it gives me all of these options for what format my sequence should be in. This really depends on what format you shot on, what kind of camera, and what the settings were at. Since we're all shooting on different things, I can't say exactly what you're shooting on, but I'm assuming it's HD. I'm shooting on Canon 1080p at 30. Okay, that looks right. And now I'm going to name my sequence. I'm going to call it The Interview. Click OK. Now right up here in my timeline is loaded a sequence with nothing in it yet. That is my new sequence called The Interview. If I wanted to switch to some of my former sequences, I could just hit these tabs. See, stop motion lesson and stop motion. But no, I want to edit this footage into my interview. So here I am in my new sequence. All right, so I have my new sequence. I'm going to use this button with the little back arrow in it to go back into my footage. Open up on a footage, interview footage, and let's see what shot I want to get into my sequence. You'll remember from my stop motion sequence, I used the trick of selecting all of the clips and control clicking or right clicking to say new sequence from clip. Well, I'm going to do things a little differently here because I'm going to actually edit my sequence together, and I don't necessarily want to use all of this footage. Trust me, there are several outtakes. So let me just preview some of the footage. Here's my husband, Jeff.
Challenge during the coronavirus.
The biggest challenge for me during the coronavirus has been the lack of... Look at the camera.
Look at me. Let's take that again. What's been the biggest challenge?
Took me a little while to frame this. Took me a little while to frame this shot in a way that I liked. So I'm going to fast forward to that. Okay, that's better. Okay, let's see what we have here.
What has been your favorite activity during the pandemic?
One of my favorite activities during the pandemic has been some of the trails that we've discovered.
He's a sleeping
Can you give me
couple.
describe one of those trails without giving away where it is, of course?
Okay. All right, so I want that statement, but I do have a little bit of audio interference, we'll call it. So I need to make sure that I cut out of this clip right after he finishes talking.
The pandemic has been some of the trails that we've discovered. My favorite activities during the pandemic.
Okay, notice I asked him to incorporate the question in his answer.
Pandemic.
One of my favorite activities.
Okay, so right when he was right before he started talking, right here. Okay. All right. So I have an in point where I want him to begin. And if I want to go back, I can use this button, go to in, to check exactly where I'm beginning. All right. I'll hit the space bar to play it.
One of my favorite activities during the pandemic has been some of the trails that we've discovered.
He's a sleeping.
Can you
All right. So I need to stop before my son interrupts. So some of the trails that
We've discovered.
Some of the trails that we've discovered. I'm going to hit O to mark out. Now you see I have an in point and an out point marked. And I can pop it into my new sequence by the same way we do in Avid, either insert or overwrite, or I could just drag it down. You know how I feel about dragging and dropping, so I'm going to overwrite it in. So now you'll see it's down here in my sequence. If I want to zoom in a little bit so that I can see it better, I can do so. I can also Command plus to make it larger so that I can actually see the image there. All right, so let me play it again here.
One of my favorite activities during the pandemic has been some of the trails that we've discovered.
Okay, that's good. What's my next shot? Well, let me look down here.
Yeah, if you could say your name.
I can fast forward that. Okay, these are my kids dressed up.
Howdy, cowboy.
All right, so I've been previewing my footage, and for this shot, I think it starts somewhere around here.
Howdy.
Yes, after I say howdy, I ask my question.
Howdy, cowboy.
What have you been doing during this pandemic?
Well,
Whoop. Okay, so what have you been doing during this pandemic? Just before she says, well, I'm putting I for in point. Let's hear.
well, I've been zooming with my friends. I have been doing some arts and crafts, lots of puzzles. I've been reading through lots of books. I just finished like my 5th book so far. Taking pictures, playing outside, hikes.
You, Rocky?
So today I was riding on my horses. And I was feeding my pigs and feeding my chickens and feeding my cows. Oh, and feeding my 2 farm dogs and 2 farm cats and 2 chickens.
Okay.
All right, I want to stop before my voice cuts in and says okay, so let's see.
2 chickens.
And space bar to pause, O for out point. Now you see I have an in to out point. If I want to check from my in point again, I can just hit this button down here, go to in, and space bar to play.
Well, I've been zooming with my friends.
Good, okay. All right, so I think I can just pop this into my sequence. I have my playhead here, this blue line. I'm going to do the same thing I do in Avid to get it right up against the end of a clip. I can hit the shift key. So in Avid, it was hitting the control key. Here, I hold down the shift key as I drag, and these triangles show me that it is snapping to the end of my last clip. All right, so do I want to insert or overwrite? Well, either one is still fine. So I'm just going to overwrite it in. Now I have 2 clips. Let's take a look.
One of my favorite activities during the pandemic has been some of the trails that we've discovered.
Well, I've been zooming with my friends. I have been doing some arts and crafts, lots of puzzles. I've been reading through lots of books. I just finished like my 5th book so far. Taking pictures, playing outside, hikes.
You, Rocky?
Okay, and that all is good, but I want to edit out my voice. So what do I do here? Well, my commands for my timeline are here, my command buttons. I can go down to my razor tool here, or I can hit the shortcut key is C. Now you'll see I have a little thing that looks like a razor. I'm going to go here and I'm going to go right where the playhead is, and I'm going to make a cut. Then I'm going to go to where I think, let's make this a little bigger by dragging it down. I'm looking at the waveforms to see where my voice probably finishes. And
You, Rocky?
okay, you Rocky is this bump here. So I'm going to take my razor and clip here. So now I have a new cut from here to here, and I can go back up to my arrow, or I can hit shortcut V and select this. So now I want to do an in point and an out point, and just like we did in Avid, and it's really the inverse of how we insert or overwrite footage into our timeline. It's the same idea here. Okay, I'm going to hit Shift with my playhead to snap to the edge of this cut, and I'm going to put an I for in, drag over here to my out point, or where I want my out point to be, hold the Shift, now I've snapped to the out point, and I hit O for out. So now I have an in point and an out point. I can go up here to these controls, and I can either lift or I can extract. Now that is the exact, those are the same commands from Avid. Lift will leave a space. I just lifted. That's fine, but I don't want a blank space there, so I'm going to Command Z to undo that. What about extract? Extract, ta-da! You see how the clip to the right moved in to fill that gap. Let's take a look.
So today I was riding on my horse.
Okay.
Hikes. So today I was riding on my horses.
All right. So there's a little bit of a jump there, but I'm going to say that's fine for now. And I like the 3 clips in my sequence. Okay, so I have my cowboy talking about feeding his horses. And maybe I want some cutaways here to break up this interview and to cover up that little jump. So let me go onto the interwebs and type in Creative Commons images of farm animals. I know I can use these.
Okay, I'm also building a pool.
So there's a cow. Some really nice cow pictures here. I'm going to search for a horse. Now, when I'm looking for these images, I want to look for images that also fit with, more or less fit with my video aspect ratio. So these are vertical shots. So they're not going to fit the horizontal aspect ratio of my screen. Let's go with old Speckle Horse here. Save image as Speckle Horse. And I want to save it into my video class media folder. actually specifically the interview. Okay, speckle horse. So I saved that. I also want to see what sort of attributes I need to give. Okay, attribution 2.0 generic. Okay, so I'm free to share, copy and distribute, adapt, remix. Under the following terms, I must give appropriate credit. So I'm going to need to make a title. So appropriate credit. So I'm going to need to say photo by Warren Brown Photography. Just copy that. Okay, back in my project, what do I need to do? I need to get that image of the horse into my footage. Am I in the right bin? Let's see. Yes, video production Silverlink. I'm in the project bin. I'm in the bin interview footage. So I can double click on the project panel and find my speckle horse picture, select it, and hit import. And ta-da, there we are, speckle horse. Okay, so I want speckle horse to show up before the cowboy starts talking.
Taking pictures, playing outside, hikes.
So I've got this cut right here. What if we insert speckle horse right there between when the cowgirl and the cowboy start talking? Well, how long do I want speckle horse to show? Up here in my source monitor, I can simply hit the space bar, in point, space bar. Okay, so speckle horse is only here for 1 second. That sounds fine to me. So now I can either insert or overwrite. Now this time it does make a difference because I don't want to overwrite it on top of replacing the footage of the cowboy. So I'm going to insert it so that it scooches the cowboy footage over. Here we go, insert. Now we have the horse footage. Okay. So that's okay, but I think I want to stretch it out a little longer. So I can just click on the cowboy footage, scooch it over, and I can drag, because this is a still image, I can drag it out a little longer. Let's see how it plays now.
Hikes. Mommy.
Okay, so that works for me. The only thing is, because this image is smaller than my aspect ratio, I'm going to control click on it and hit scale to frame size. Now it's going to be larger and fit into my sequence visually a little better. Okay, now I also needed to make that attribute, so I'm going to make a title right here. This is kind of a separate lesson, but if I go to graphics, type tool, I can just make the title down here by stretching it and pasting it, Warren Brown Photography. And I'm going to say photo. Warren Brown Photography. It doesn't need to be that big. Let me make it a little smaller. Move it down a little bit. There. Okay. So we have our photo. We have our credit for the photo.
So today I was riding on the horses. And I was feeding my pigs and feeding my chickens.
Okay, so there's my interview. I can, if I want to dissolve out at the end, just so it fades out, I can select here, and the shortcut for that is Command or Control D. Now you'll see I have a dissolve here, so it will fade out like this.
Chickens.
Okay, I can do the same thing at the beginning. Select this. And Command or Control D, so it fades in. Let's see.
One of my favorite activities during the pandemic has been some of the trails that we've discovered.
Well, I've been zooming with my friends. I have been doing some arts and crafts, lots of puzzles. I've been reading through lots of books. I just finished like my 5th book so far. Taking pictures, playing outside, hikes. Today I was riding on the horses. And I was feeding my pigs and feeding my chickens and feeding my cows. Oh, and feeding my 2 farm dogs and 2 farm cats and 2 chickens.
Okay, that'll do it for this lesson. I now have a sequence with my interview, and I have a bird that needs breakfast.